start if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the pleasure of welcoming K.L. Peng for a second time for the second part of his talk. And this week is going to be about type theory and logic.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Next, the last week we talked about type theory in homotopy or in geometry. We regard a type as a kind of abstraction of space. But you may think that okay, type theory may be kind of fancy to us for only for spatial area of math. But today I want to talk about type theory can replace the C theory as a fundamental language of math. So this is today's goal. But before we really start, maybe I should introduce some application of this, because it's not all mathematicians really care about logic. So I will give you some motivation.
Sorry, just speak a little bit louder
Okay.
for the mic.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'd like to give you some motivation of why you should care about this. So I first introduce a very simple conception that called proof assistance or general. So this is consists of two parts. First part is you write math, formulate math in some language. You think of math and you write down it in some language. Then there is some machine check the proof. Your proof is correct or not. So a simple example is the current academic system. So all mathematicians write their paper in human language, and the other mathematicians check their proof, like their advisor, their editor. And so this is how our academic system works. But is there any other system possible? So let's look at this. So this part is really hard. This is what the mathematicians really do. And this part also is also hard to check, but it's relatively easy to check that proof. So we only give fair tomato to the people who prove it, not give the people who check it. Right? So is that possible to give a computer proof assistance that mathematicians write down their proof in computer language that's based on type theory, and the computer and software that can automatically check the proof? But when it comes to this system, so this step is as hard as before, but this step will be contribute. So we will release mathematicians from the work of checking proof. We only need to write down our proof in some computer language based on type theory. But this language we will see is really related to our human language. So maybe there are some frequently asked questions. When it comes to computer and proof, many people first will think of the Gödel's incompleteness theory. So is this limited? Actually, it's as much as limited as human languages. But Gödel's theory says that there are true propositions that we cannot prove it. But what the proof assistant do is it can verify the given proof, not to automatically give a proof. So in some sense, the Gödel's theory is irrelevant. And the second part is when it comes to computer to math, many people will think of it's based on an exhaustive method of numeral calculation, or it can only handle the elementary math like elementary geometry or combination. Actually, it's no. But as I talked about, it's based on a type theory. It's kind of a new language of formulated math. So it should be as powerful as human language. So we can even we'll show you later that we can also formulate the perfect toy space, which is recently fair tomato work. So we'll see this later. And so last question maybe is how it works, how it could possible. The computer even cannot understand my naive question: how could the computer understand math? So this is what this talk want to answer. So in short, is that our life is much complicated than math. So it's much more easier for computers to understand a toy space than something like in our real life at all. So this is what's the idea. Okay, so let's really start. So let's see. There are this component of math. So maybe there are definition. Then we can give the proposition. Then we give the proof of the proposition. But all these three components are based on idea. But the idea is too mystery. It's deep in our brain, so we cannot handle it. But we could handle the first three components. So let's try to see these three components in logic, what it is. So let's try to see first the proposition and the proof, what it is. So how do we regard a proposition? But classically, we only regard the proposition as a Boolean value. So it somehow indicates that we can always invalue a proposition into its truth value. It's true or false. But I mean, according to the Gödel's theory, this is not true, not right. So when it comes to modern age, there are the free girls. He comes to another idea that okay, we can interpret the proposition as a set, as a subset of some entire set. So maybe we can interpret this subset as the situation that the proposition holds. So if the end of the order of two propositions becomes the union of two sets. So this is we can interpret a proposition as a set. So this may give you a hint that we can transform proposition to another thing. So when it comes to type theory, so there is so-called Curry-Howard correspondence. And so we just to record some notation, and that's last week we talk about x is a point of A, so we denote this x column. And we also have the path space of PAXY. But really in type theory, we call this is x is the term of type A. So we not call it element or point, we really call it term. And this path space, or we can also call it identity type. So we denote it like this. You can only think it's just notation, but you can still think this is path space. So the Curry-Howard correspondence is kind of a very trivial idea you might see, is that we can regard proposition as a type, and the proof of the proposition is the terms of this type. So it seems like nonsense. I mean, but I need to notice that. So we cannot go inside a type. So not like type set theory. We can pick some element, then I form a set. But here it's like I talked next week. The type is defined by some universal property. So we define this space by universal property, and we try to find the term inside the space or the type. So the process of finding a term is just the process of prove this theory. So this is the basic idea, but we have still more example of this. So there is compare. I mean, so this is, so you can think it. So this is, so if I want to prove the order of two propositions, so we just need to find either prove of this or prove of this. So this is kind of like, okay, it's disjoint unit. But when it comes to this, we need to both find the proof of P and both find the proof of Q. So this result will become the product space, and imply it will be, I mean, if I have a proof of P, then I can find a proof of Q. So this is a function from P to Q. And when it comes to the negative or the not P, it's quite interesting is that it's P to something called force, or you can think it as empty type, this empty space. So it's quite interesting. I mean, if I want to prove the negative of a proposition, but it somehow I need to prove this P is empty. But as I said, we cannot go inside and say it's empty. We need to find some evidence of this is empty. So a set is empty set as long as it have a map to empty set, right? So not empty, we cannot find a map from a non-empty set to an empty set. So this is the idea. So the evidence of P is empty is just to find a P a function from P to the empty, or we have called before. So maybe we can denote the proof as a bigger type of OR proposition. As last time we denote the big type as or small type. Or here maybe we can think of the proposition also from a bigger space called proof. And so like last time we can also find a figuration. So from a base space A, and we found a figuration from A to proof. And we just like last time, I mean, there's space, and we want to find some fiber. And but the fiber is taking the proof. So every fiber is a type of proposition. So let's see an example. So this is called a predictive. If A is a proposition that A larger than 0, so we also define if A is a function from R to proof, since or A larger than 0 it's a proposition. So as we said, it's a type. It's a type. So we can also define the sigma space like before, and we want somehow this sigma space, this sigma type becomes R plus is a positive real number. So why? Let's see this vibration what it is. So here, when it comes to negative part, as we can see, so then the fiber of the negative part is the proof of minus something larger than 0. So this we cannot find anything. So the fiber here are all empty. So there is nothing. But when it comes here, every fiber is the point of this fiber was the proof of positive number larger than 0. So we can find something. So it's kind of similar to R plus. So but how can this really become R plus? So the condition maybe that is every fiber contains at most one element, right? If their fiber is more than one element or 1 point, this is not R plus algorithm. So we want the every fiber of the array is contained at most one element. So whether it's empty, it means that this proposition is false, or there is some element, but only one element, so that we can make this sigma type, so to become the R plus. And the interesting thing that the term of the sigma type is a pair that's A and P, which P is an evidence or a proof of A larger than 0. So this kind of thinking, so So we not just take a subset, but we take a pair that's a term and evidence that it satisfies some property. So this is the powerful point of that. I mean, any property we can have a really concrete things that we can use it. But we'll see an example later. So as we see, the proposition is a type that at most have one state, one point or one term, and so they're not all space are not all the term are proposition, but we can somehow get a truncation from every type to a proposition. So I mean the t minus 1 is called a truncation. So the t minus 1 a is relative to a. It's just the proposition that a is not empty. So i.e. any term of a will become evidence of minus t minus 1a. So it's somehow this is a, and we force all elements of a are equal. This will become the t minus 1 a. But you can also think that the t minus 1 a is a proposition that a is not empty. So let's try to take the truncation to the sigma type. So we will see. So this is actually we said is R plus, and so if the R plus is not empty, so maybe we can reinterpret it as there is a number, the real number that's larger than 0. So we can read that there exists a and a larger than 0. But this will become the exist of the air, I mean, as we denote. So we may notice that so the sigma type and the quantifier, the exponential quantifier and the universal quantifier, there are relation. So if we take the sigma type of some vibration, and then we take the truncation, we'll get the exist of this proposition. And here we do not need to take the truncation because that if every fiber has at most one element, the section is automatically has at most one element. But as we see, so you can both think it as a vibration, or it's the quantifier of logic. So this is a very interesting compare of these two. So okay, so now we know how to deal with the proposition and the proof. But maybe let's come to the very central part of math is how to give the definition. How do we define? I mean, I will show an example define monad, but we can also define a group because monad will have less things to do. We can also do for group. But monad is something is a group without the invertibility. Not all elements are invertible. It's similar to a group. But here I will have some convention that I mean, since we will use a lot of sigma type, and so we will just omit the sigma from now on. So you may think that it's somehow okay. I take some vibration, then I continue to take vibration on this total space. It's kind of like this. Okay, so let's try to define the category of all monad or group. I mean, similar, but traditionally, if you use the algebraic group, okay, it says okay, we have a container M, and we have a multiplication function, and we have a unity element. It's done. they only have these three elements, and it describes this element have some property. But since we are in type theory, we can really write those properties as element, as term. Like we said that the associative will become a real term. That's of this population, right? And the property of the unit element will also become this term. So to define a monad or group, you can add more vibration to become group, more condition. To become a monad, we not only need these three parts, but we also need to add this population. There are population as evidence of some proof here. So this really to become a definition in the type theory. And so we can even prove. This is a really good definition. That so this is the identity type. Defined in type theory. So if we just regard this O as some space, so we can define the path space between two monads. But this path space, we can prove that it's just the algebraic isomorphism of two monads. The conditional proof that definition is that we have a bijection and this bijection preserves the multiple function. Right? So we can prove that. By this definition. Since we have this part. So if we have this definition, how do we prove a proposition? So like if I define a monad, then I want to prove this proposition. A times A is equal to A. So how do we do that? So our goal is to find a term of this, right? And so what we only have is those properties. So we want to construct a term of this from those properties. But we will notice that so since this is a section, so this is, you can also think it as a function. That's so this is a M, and so this is a section. So every point, give a point from here that we can find with something. So we can find a point in this fiber. So this fiber, I just denote here. Okay. So this fiber is this population, is this space. So this is a space for, so you can think of it as a path space. So this proof will become trivial. We just apply the E mod to E. So it will, if I apply this to E, so we'll find a point on this is E mod is section. Right? So we'll find a point on the terms on this fiber. So we are done. So we prove a theory. So any proof of math was followed by this kind of states. How our math proof goes is that. So first we need to clarify our goal. We need to find out what our goal is, and then we try to apply the conclusion we have to reach this goal. So as we show this example, that so what the computer can do is that it can check if our application will really reach this goal. So like here, if you have not put E in here, I put other thing here. So the computer will know I didn't construct an element here. So computer can automatically he can check that if we really put in the right recipe or right code. So this is how do we really work. So I have introduced the basic, the basic idea of this. So I'd like to do some example. But before we start, is there any question so far? So maybe I go too fast. You may not understand. You can ask any point.
Anyone online have a question so far? Okay, so you can go ahead.
Okay. So I will show some real example. As I said, in theory, so this can achieve how we really achieve in computer. So it's quite famous. In France, it's called Coq. But I'd like to introduce another tool. Is called Name. This I found it more friendly to mathematicians. So let's see a real example of how this proof goes. So here, if assume we already defined what's the real number.
Maybe we're going to try to shut off the slides.
Yeah,
so
okay.
you can't see it very well on the,
Okay.
on the Zoom. Yeah, I think it's a bit more useful.
Yeah, but this, this comma is not so important.
Sure.
It's just the comma is just compared to the human language to this code. You can think it as you just write the text code. So first, we just define what the upbound is, and we define A is max of the set A. Is that A has this property. You don't know. So if we have this definition, let's say a proof is that so there is a set and we have two elements. And we both these two elements both have evidence that this element is the max of this set. So we will prove that these two maximum are equal. So if we start the proof, so we notice here, the computer will automatically list what we already have. This is what we already have, and this is what the goal we want to achieve. Okay, so we have the two evidence of x is maximum or y is also at maximum. So we're first. So if you consider it when normally you want to prove this theory this proposition, what you do, we first explain what this means. So we just interpret x is a max into this. This is more basic notion. So we just explain these two. Okay, so our condition will become this. Now, the next step we will do is, so this is upper boundary. This is have its definition. So we want to expand this definition. So we will see very clearly that so we can compare what changes after we imply this step, so before this step, there is only x is upper bound. So here will become a property that if y belongs to A, then there is a y smaller than x. So will become a function that we can use. So similarly to here. So we just to apply we just to apply the y here. Y because y here have this property, so we can apply this y here to this function. So we will get the element, we will get the evidence of y smaller than x, and similarly we can get this x x is also less than y. So combine these two, we'll reach the goal. So this is how a real proof goes. In this language. But you may think this is a little bit complicated. So I would recommend you to play this called natural number game. This is a really good tutorial of this language. And you don't know anything. You just open it in your browser, and you just try to prove the basic theory of the natural number. Like, it will explain everything to you. You just follow the step. You will write the proof. So you do not even know anything about today. You try to prove this, and maybe if you can prove this, all this you can really achieve. You just search for the natural number game. The result will be this. And as I promised, that they can also use the name to formulate the perfect point space. As something we mentioned, this is a sigma type. As I defined the monad. And so, but this is not all the definition. There is lots of other documents that what's the Hilbert ring, but it's in other documents. But but with this you can really trust. We can define complicated math conception in computer. And here is how all the related conception is defined. Means lot of document to define to reach the goal. And I need to say that here they only define the perfect point space. It does not have the enough theory or lemma. They can really do research. So they just only define it. So I want to say, you can think of it as if I want to use a theory or lemma, we must prove it in this code base. So what we need to do is we need to reconstruct all our human math, and we need to transform all human math in this code base. So this is a really huge work. You cannot jump. Okay, I start with algebra geometry. I just assume. I just claim I know this, but this is not really you can do. You need to build this from ground to the sky. So this really is a non-work to do. But luckily there is many mathematicians, or not mathematicians, but work on this. So they have called Math Lab. It's a code library that formulates or try to formulate all mathematicians we have. And what they have done is they're almost finish the undergraduate level of math. So here, I mean, for example, maybe just check this. So you can see here is some example. Here is some example of, I mean, the Galois theory. So we can also define this. I mean, just by, I mean, the like what we define monad. I mean, but it's more step to go. But I mean, everything of this varies shift. But I mean, you may feel like this kind of abstraction, but this is actually, I mean, the what's traditionally you do math, you will also, I mean, have this conception. But there is, I mean, we should write down this relation of the conception very clear. I mean, so I really want to encourage you, I mean, to use this language, this name. So you can search for LEM, and there have very detailed guide of you how to use it, how to install it, like here. And you can try to, I mean, this is a tutorial how to do some, so you can play with it. Or maybe first you can play this. This not, you do not need install anything. But I mean, so as I said, it's kind of, it have some distance to really to do research work, since we need to fulfill all the gap between. But since this already have some undergraduate level of math, so maybe we can try to use it in education. So here is an example. I mean, if you write the proof, I mean, this is random. Both write proof in human language and this type language. So here, I mean, this is a sandwich theory. I mean, if there are two sequences have limited to L, then the sequence in the middle also have limited to the L. So here all the definition, I mean, is all additional things. But here, like here, so if you begin the proof, or you will see very clear what's the hypothesis, what's the condition, and the goal of change. So if you are a beginner, you may be really confused with those conceptions. But with the help of this, you will see very clear, like what's the step to the proof. So you can check it. So you can compare the change of this step. Okay, you know what happened at this step, and so what happened at this step. So I mean, you may think that it's complicated, but this really how works go. It should be, I mean, go this process. I mean, you expand this definition into more basic notion, and you use it. But I mean, without this, you can only do this in your brain. But this is kind of difficult for beginner. But with the help of this, I think it kind of, I mean, very clear to beginner what happened. So I really think this could be a powerful tool for education. I mean, but if you write down, I mean, in human language, if there's you did it right very clear, maybe the beginner cannot understand, but he can go to check the code. He can know what's the step he make it confused what happened. So as I said, even though it's kind of distant to research tools, but I mean, I think it's already a powerful tool for education. Okay, so any question about the real example so far?
So I just put the links in the chat so that people can see it.
Huh?
I just put
okay,
the links.
Okay, thanks.
People can check them.
Yeah, they can check by themselves. So this is kind of maybe the future of mathematics. I mean, all our proof just to write down, and what we do not worry about it, what we write is correct or not, because computer will immediately tell you. Like here, if I prove something wrong, like I just delete mistake. And so they'll tell you, okay, anyway, it will tell you there is something wrong. You did not prove it right. So you can check. I mean the proof. I mean, but in real case there are a lot of things to do. But I mean you cannot during play this natural number game. But to tell you a lot of techniques you might use in this type of language. Okay. So we still have some time. Maybe I can talk about some additional something events. But there is a really important of the applying events. It's the identity substituting. So maybe in Blackboard is that if A equal to B, the property we have for A, we can prove it also true for B. But if in the type theory language is that, so if we found the evidence of A equal to B and we found evidence of PA, and then we can also found the evidence of PB. So we denote it as E star H because this is dependent on this E. Why I denote it as this is that if I regard this as a vibration, so what we have is there is a path between A and B, so like in the picture, and we have a point on the fiber of A, and so since the property of the vibration is that it has the unique lifting of the path, so there is a red path you can see. Oh, it's a lifting from beginning from X, and it's lifting of the P in the fiber. So there is a lifting of P, but the endpoint, there is an endpoint. So we denote this endpoint to be the P star X. So you compare this. So it's actually the same thing. You have a lifting. You can put the point in the fiber, and you move along the path in the base, and you get other point in other fiber. So this is what exactly this A equal to B, PA and imply PB. So it's quite interesting. I mean, the identity substituting is the same thing with the lifting property. This is also very important in homotopy type. This is also called the path inductive. But I mean, so in homotopy type, we do not need identity substituting. We only need this. I mean, this is fine for all type. So another topic I want to talk about is there is the hierarchy or level of the type. As we mentioned, I mean, the population is only the type of 1 or 0, 1 or no element, and most element. So we may notice that there may somehow there's some ways to distinguish of different types. So here is how we begin. I mean, we begin with the unity type. The type is these are the constructible space. I mean, so this is all the constructible space. So this is containing of. So this is example 1.0, or contractible space. And so this we denote this truncated level -2, but I mean there has its reason. So when it comes to proposition, as we see this it's at most one element. So here is something you must have one element. You always have one element in this space. So here is maybe one or zero element. So its definition you may think is complicated, but if you replace the sigma and pi to the for all and exist, so there is exists y, and for any exists x for any y, there is x. So this is definition of a set is a single term. So there must have some element, and all element was equal to x. So this is a property to say this type have only one element. When compare, it says that for adding two terms of this type, they are equal. I mean, we can find it equal. So there is no term. So all terms are equal, and if there have term, all terms are equal, then they only have one term. So this property is that those types are only have one or zero element. So we come to the truncation zero. It's a set. So what the set is that the equality of two elements of set is whether equal or not. So we just have this to resolve that. So element of set, if they're equal to itself or any two distinct the points that are not equal to each other. So the path between the path is the path or identity type of A and B is just a proposition. So this is a traditional thing to me. We only care about they are equal or not. The next level is what we talk about is a groupoid. So when it comes to groupoid, there may be multiple ways to equal from 2 points as we talked about last week. So the identity type between two points is just the same. Like the path space is same. And here, the path space is just proposition. So somehow, the example is pi zero space or pi one space. So on and so on. We can define all truncated level of a type. And as we said, if you regard this as a classified space, so like classify A2 prop will get all the subset, the sub-object. But if A2 sit, what we get maybe gets the covering space, because the covering space is something fiber is set. And we come to groupoid. If A2 groupoid is classified with all fiber, it's groupoid. So maybe this is stack. So stack is something fiber is groupoid. So this is a very interesting thing. All this was kind of subtype of the type, but there is hierarchical level of this. And so as we said, we can define truncation to each level, like the T-1. We can force a type to become a proposition. We just shrink it to 1 point or no point. But we also can define the T0. So we put the type or space to a set. So this is what we do. The pi zero, take the connective component we just shrink the connective part. We get a set. And as we defined last week, is a fundamental group point. Yeah, so we get a group point. So it's truncating to the level 1. So to summarize this 2 weeks talk, I use this picture I just picked from other slider, so kind of slightly different notation. But it's called Correspondence correspondence. So Correspondence is what compared. So this is what we talk about today. Is this about, and what we talked about last week is this now. So okay. So here is, here is what we use different notation here. This is A to some type, the denotes as B. And here is the somehow defining a section of this vibration. And you can compare all this, this set theories for you to understand. And this is the homotopy stereo geometry project. So this is what I want to talk about this 2 week. So thank you. And so, any questions?
We can thank the speaker first. Are there any questions in the room or online?
Yeah.
In the meantime, I have just one question regarding the previous slides. You had these truncation knots. Do they have natural sections? Can you?
Yeah. You can force. You mean to low level to high level, right?
Yeah, but can you go the other way?
Yeah. Of course. You just take. Become. Like a discrete space. The group point. Only have identity. So it's kind of. Group point, but the group point only has the path to itself, or so it's kind of. The embedding from low level to high level is kind of we force the higher level to become the contractible. Okay. So this is also a path to the embedding category. So if you think about this, you will naturally think about embedding category. So why do a category that's to the morphism is set? Why now we cannot make a category that its morphism is more high level things. So this is embedding categories idea of in category higher.
Are there any other questions? Okay, so we can thank the speaker again.
Okay.
And we will have a seminar, not next week, but in a couple of weeks. We will send you an email so you have more information. Bye-bye.